হুম? এটাতে স্ট্রিমে দিই ভাই, ব্যাক স্ট্রিমে তো রাখছি। আচ্ছা, hello, good morning everyone. Welcome to our Institution of Global Professional Free webinar. Thank you all for joining with us in this webinar morning. My lovely audience, today I am your host for the morning. My name is Siyari Sakhtar. I am from Bangladesh. Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to be associated with IGP as a global member. I feel honored and privileged to host this webinar. It's my delight to welcome you all to our Institution of Global Professional Free webinar. Thank you all for joining us today in this marvelous morning. And it's my humble request to you, all of you, stay with us till the end. And don't forget to tag, share, and mention your friend. So let's together and learn together. Together. Today we have our speaker, and our webinar topic is uh, topic is youth engagement in agriculture, and our speaker name is Gregorio Bellari Anjas Gier. He's from Philippines. Let's invite our speaker. Dear participant, there is a network problem, so we have to wait for some times. Hello, sir.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hello.
Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir. Sir, you can start your presentation.
Welcome. Welcome. Thank you. Did you receive my slides presentation?
Hello, sir.
Ma'am, did you receive my presentation?
Yes, sir, but you have to take the You can take the presentation without slide. I can receive. I can I can't receive your PowerPoint,
already sent it
but I can't
to your
view.
email.
But sir, I can't share it. I can't receive it.
Okay, can I continue it without the slide?
Sir, you can take the presentation without slide.
Okay, so my topic is all about the youth engagement and agriculture. By the way, I'm from the Philippines, from the Catanduanes State University, Panganiban Campus. So my topic is all about the youth engagement in agriculture. So in defining youth for legal and administrative purposes, United Nations agencies, national governments, and their legal systems define the life stages of childhood, youth, and adulthood by chronological age. The UN, for example, defines childhood as ages 0 to 17 and youth as ages 15 to 24, thus overlapping with childhood for 3 years during the ages of 15 to 17. There are, however, substantial differences between this global definition and the age at which youth is defined to begin in and in different countries, national youth policies and laws. For example, youth status begins legally at 12 years old in Mexico, but at 18 in Bolivia. It ends at 19 in the United Kingdom, but at 35 in Tanzania and 40 in Malaysia. While fully recognizing the importance of chronological age and defining youth for analytical and policy purposes and for purposes of this presentation, relationality is the main defining feature of the concept of youth. Drawing on key ideas and generation, childhood and youth studies and some that combine the two, this presentation recognizes childhood and youth in relational terms, defined by their position in intergenerational relations and across the life course. However, when citing data, generally youth are defined according to age as persons aged between 15 and 24 years of age unless specified otherwise. Transforming food systems requires focused engagement with the world's young people who seek economically rewarding, intellectually stimulating, and meaningfully careers. At the same time, the current conjuncture of climate, health, and economic crisis has sharpened the recognition, especially for youth who are examining their prospects for the future with ever greater concern of the underlying sustainability of the world's food systems. The rapid pace of both climate and technological change challenges the ability to make predictions about young people's prospects for employment and future agriculture and food systems with any degree of certainty. This fragility presents profound consequences for the realization of the human right to food, to employment, to a healthy environment, and for overall well being, not only for youth, but for all generations. So, in sum, young people are on the front lines. They will have to cope with the effects of environmental and climate change, which are likely to accelerate and intensify during their lifetimes. Already prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, young people were growing up in a world that is not tracked to achieve the targets of the Sustainable Development Goals related to food security. A world where a third of the population is affected by at least one form of malnutrition, with an ailing food system as its main driver. Global inequalities persist and grow, and there is increasing concern over the crisis of youth employment. Youth as agents of change face significant and unique challenges across food systems. Food systems' livelihood continue to remain precarious for many of the world's most marginalized and vulnerable people, and food production is the single largest cost and is profoundly impacted by global environmental change. As a result, there is an urgent need for a global transformation of food systems with an intentional design that can deliver food security, nutrition, and decent livelihoods, which also being climate resilient and socially and economically just. Who are the actors of food system? Food system incorporate actors at many increasing levels and spaces. These range from the management of natural resources, including agrobiodiversity, soil health, and forest and fisheries conservation, research and advisory services, in the development and production of agricultural inputs such as seeds and fertilizer to primary agricultural production, trade processing, retail marketing, consumption, food literacy, and nutrition education and waste disposal. These latter activities occur in food environments or the physical, economic, socio-cultural, and policy conditions that shape access, affordability, safety, and food preferences. In terms of the consumer behavior, food systems also integrate consumer behaviors understood as individual, household, or specific social group awareness and choices for food acquisition, preparation, and consumption. Consumer behavior and food environment shape diet and dietary outcomes, which have an impact on health and nutrition, and in turn on the environmental, economic, and social sustainability of food systems. What are the rules and spaces for youth engagement and employment in food system? We consider that youth are diverse workers. Youths are agents of change across all dimensions of food systems, ranging from consumer pressure groups to social movements to reclaim land to self-organized local networks for food production and distribution, in addition to engaging through work and livelihoods. Collective action through youth cooperatives, formal and informal associations, and workers, unions, and producers. Organizations intersect all components of food system and influence changes and moods of agricultural production and food distribution, as well as consumer choices. Young people also engage in food systems through a range of intersecting rules and modalities, including in food and agricultural supply chain as a source of both jobs and livelihoods. In their roles as current and future stewards of land and biocultural heritage, young people are involved in research, conservation, and knowledge acquisition and transmission. In farming and primary agricultural production spaces, they are farmers, fishers, pastoralists, entrepreneurs, and wage plantation workers. They also perform unpaid family labor even as children. In addition, youth are members of producers' cooperatives, volunteers in organic farms, and service providers such as agricultural extension agents, nutritionists, and veterinarians. In storage and distribution components of food supply chains, their jobs range from transport and warehouse workers to informal traders and middle persons. In food processing and packaging, a segment of food systems where youth and particularly young women are prevalent, temporary and seasonal employment is widespread. Retail and marketing spaces include informal and formal wet markets, integrated supermarket chains, restaurants, and street food stalls with jobs ranging from shop owners to cook to dishwashers. In summary, overall, agriculture and food systems hereafter, referred to simply as food systems, play a vital role in job creation for youth and economic development. This is the case not only in rural areas, but also in urban and peri-urban contexts where food production, processing, distribution, and retail sectors also provide opportunities for employment. Positioning youth within a sustainable food systems framework also allows to see how and which ways a wide range of drivers, either a biophysical and environmental, technological, and innovative economic and market political and institutional, sociocultural and demographic affect and are affected by youth in their particular societal and demographic context. These drivers are often interlinked and reinforce one another while intersecting not only with age and generation, but also with other attributes of youth such gender, ethnicity, education, and class, as well as with broader systematic and structural dynamics, including climate change and economic globalization. Let us define sustainable food systems. First, it should be productive and prosperous to ensure the availability of sufficient funds. Second, equitable and inclusive to ensure access for all people to food and to livelihoods within that system. Third, respectful and empowering to ensure agency for all people and groups to make choices and exercise voice in shaping that system. Fourth, resilient to ensure stability in the face of shocks and crises. Fifth, regenerative to ensure sustainability in all its dimensions. And the last one, healthy and nutritious to ensure nutrient uptake and utilization. Youth and economies of well-being in sustainable food system, both a goal to be met and of self and as means to realizing sustainable development. It draws on the concept of intergenerational sustainability, for example, intergenerational collaboration and the evolving dynamic balance between generation as an essential driving force of development. As academic theories have long pointed out, it is essential to consider a set of balance as ordering principles in relation to food and farming systems. The balance between consumption and labor, between people in living nature, between production and reproduction, between internal and external resources, and between autonomy and dependence. A carefully built and maintained intergenerational balance and multi-directional exchange of generation-specific knowledge, resources, and livelihood strategies can enhance the role of young people in leading successful and indigenous innovation in food systems and contributing to sustainable agrarian, rural, and urban transformations. In turn, the achievement of sustainable development goals should facilitate transitions towards economies of well-being based on sustainable food systems that enable dignified livelihoods, promote a healthy environment, and uphold the right to food and food sovereignty. The concept of well being as another form of development is an emergent policy discourse recognized both in ancestral teachings about relationships between humans and nature in a range of traditional societies, as well as in contemporary development, theory, and legislative form. Human flourishing. Building on key themes and policy discourses related to sustainable development, economies of well being, or buen vivir, or the good life, or living well, reemerged as a political discourse in the late 1990s. Economies of well being, or the well being economy, as used in this presentation, refers to economic activities, relationships, and structures which promote a return to harmonious relationships between people and nature, a fair distribution of resources to address economic inequalities, and healthy and resilient individuals and communities. In Latin America, indigenous and other social movements have considered the concept of an economy of well-being as basis for cultural, social, and political renewal. Policy directions. Overall, these emergent policy directions reinforce the idea that significant changes must be undertaken in economic and political systems today to protect the opportunities for the youth of the future to survive in the face of combined political, economic, ecological, and health crises. Policy transition supporting the implementation of sustainable food systems, especially food systems that support youth as agents of change, therefore require a shift from business as usual and the current global economic framework to new goals and significant institutional changes. The economies of well-being approach is thus an important frame for considering the types of transformations required in food systems that support and enhance the capabilities of youth. This presentation suggests that strengthening youth employment and engagement in sustainable food systems to contribute to the achievement of economies of well-being depends on four foundational pillars. These are agency, equity, rights, and recognition. The agency pillar underlines that the world's young people are not simply objects or instruments of development and economic growth, but a potentially powerful political, social, and economic force in the shift towards more sustainable food systems. The vision of the agency and potential of youth engagement has been clearly expressed by young people involved in the civil society in the indigenous peoples mechanism. Youth are political subjects and have the right, capacity, and agency to build spaces of solidarity, inclusion, and dignity. We learn from an exchange with practices. Through practicing and our diverse knowledge and cultures, including indigenous knowledge and practices, we resist growing corporation while co-creating life-affirming world and futures by building strong connections to the land, water, seed, plants, and all living beings. The importance of agency. Agency, in its most basic meaning, refers to the capacity to act independently. It can apply both to individuals and to groups, as the concept highlights the ability to have some control not only over the direction one's own life, but takes over the direction of society more generally. It is a neutral nor a normative term and therefore can refer to actions that either further or hinder transitions to desirable outcomes, such as more sustainable food systems. When applied to youth, agency recognizes that young people, including the very young, are active participants in society and not passive subjects of policies and social processes. But at the same time, young people's agency must be understood within the wider context of power relations in which they are involved, particularly age, generational power structures, but also structures of inequality and exclusion based on, for example, class, gender, heteronormativity, and ethnicity. Like all other social groups, young people's agency, their freedom and ability to define and express their identities and aspirations and to act according to them is constrained or bounded. The notion of young people's agency is also embodied in international conventions and declarations on the rights of children and youth. In the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, for example, children and adolescents are entitled not only to various protections, but also to progressively exercise their rights according to their evolving capacities. As children's capacities grow, so does their agency, their ability to have a voice, to participate, and be listened to. The capacity of young people, individually or collectively, to act independently, to act control over the direction of their lives, and also to influence the direction of changes in society more generally. Young people's agency is bounded by their position in intersecting structures of inequality and exclusion based on age, generation, class, gender, heteronormativity, ethnicity, but also involves their efforts to change these structures. To exercise agency means not only to take responsibility for individual or collective decisions on what to eat, what to produce, and how to engage in the world, but also to work towards breaking down structural barriers to food system sustainability, including structural racism, sexism, and social economic inequality. Youth as worker. The ability to exercise agency is also essential for young people's achievement of dignified livelihoods. The International Labour Organization has defined decent work as that which occurs in conditions of freedom, equity, security, and human dignity, that which provide a fair income and improves economic and social well-being for all, and that which gives people the freedom to participate in decisions that affect their lives, both access to spaces in which to make decisions and control over the resources necessary to sustain livelihoods are integral parts of a dignified livelihood. The equity pillar reflects the fact that current generations of children and youth are growing up in a context of persistent and increasing inequalities in income and wealth, both within and between societies. In the face of these inequalities, the policy shifts needed to support the radical transformation of food systems should include stronger measures to promote equity among food system participants by promoting agency and the right to food, especially for vulnerable and marginalized people. It also reflects recognition of many other persistent inequalities affecting specific groups of young people's engagement in food systems. Most obviously, inequalities related to the generation, race, and gender, but also to such areas as rural, urban, and digital divides. Equity is also inherent in the non-discrimination principle of the triangle of rights and the rights pillar. Recent analyses argue that redistributive policies are critical for rebuilding equitable food systems in the face of compounding crises such as COVID-19. Redistribution requires reducing the current extreme levels of concentration of natural and financial resources at global and national levels. Seen from a youth perspective, the historical experience of redistributive reforms, such as agrarian reform, has often involved severe gender and generational imbalance and redistribution. The equity pillar is therefore a reminder that all redistributive interventions need to ensure that previously marginalized and resource-poor groups, including youth, are included. And engagement of youth in food systems transformation requires policies promoting the redistribution of resources, voice, and power from older to younger generations without compromising the legitimate needs of the elderly. The importance of youth agency, equity, rights, and recognition as an essential foundation for building sustainable food systems of the future. Policy to support youth employment and engagement in food systems must recognize the diversity, intersectionality, and context specificity of youth aspirations and experience across the globe, revitalize diverse knowledge and action pathways, facilitate youth mobility and innovation, and address structural inequality. Youth in the context of relational terms as both individuals and collectives situated in uneven relations of power, which are further compounded by other social differences. Each young person's relationship with food systems is determined by the specific intersections of age and generation with other factors such as gender, class, and ethnicity. Young people's livelihoods and other forms of engagement with food systems should be understood in the context of structural barriers to ecological and smallholder food production and expanding provision of formal education. Their aspirations for future lives and work continue to feature food systems and increasingly as part of livelihood across multiple sectors and localities. Young people also engage with food systems as consumers and have specific nutritional needs as children and youth. They also influence the sustainability of food systems both through their own food habits and preferences and through youth mobilizations and political advocacy. The multiple voices, participation, and leadership that young people can bring to a sustainable food systems transformation needs to be recognized, facilitated, and legitimized. The impact of COVID-19 on youth employment. These job losses are also not distributed evenly among social groups. For example, in Italy, the overwhelming majority of job losses were women's jobs. In India, young people and women lost jobs at a disproportionately higher rate than other workers. Almost 60% of workers aged 15 to 24 years lost employment during or after the lockdown. At the same time, agriculture was one of the sectors with the least volatility in India during the pandemic, absorbing 42% of construction workers and 40% of health and education workers that had lost their jobs elsewhere early in the pandemic. Youth agripreneurs. Young people have also played a role in developing coping mechanisms to address that crisis that can inform building back better. For example, young agripreneurs responded to COVID-19 by adapting their business models to find new opportunities in response to the pandemic. There has been an accelerated move to online marketing and sales, such as orders on social media and home delivery, and increase in mobile payments. Such entrepreneurs also started to work more with adding value to primary products. Many of them began to use locally sourced agricultural inputs. The link between food systems and employment is bidirectional. Food systems that do not provide decent and meaningful work and adequate livelihood opportunities to those engaged in them cannot be considered socially and economically sustainable. While young people will not aspire to work in food systems that are not meaningful, economically rewarding, and intellectually stimulating. Yet, the right to work, to fair working conditions, and to protection against unemployment do not match the current realities of young people's engagements with labor markets. Food systems, while being the largest employer of young people, particularly in the global south, fail to provide decent work for a large proportion of young people. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the urgent need to address these inequities and need for food systems to provide jobs and livelihoods that are resilient to disruptions and crises. ICT and digital extension services in the Philippines. In the Philippines, many farmers seek services for farm planning and management. A youth-led enterprise called Dream Agritech Consultancy Services created a pool of consultants from young professionals who specialize in different fields of agriculture, including animal science, horticulture, agronomy, agricultural extension, forestry, environmental science, agricultural systems, and soil science to provide farm planning, management, and retainer services for clients. This enterprise has partnered with another business called 360 or Philippines for drone imagery services or the creation of virtual tours if clients wish to have a digital walkthrough of their farms or farm tourist sites. In 2020, Dream Agritech created a new section called Dream Agri-Media to produce webinars and talk shows to increase access to advisory services during the lockdowns caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. This company has also benefited from mentoring programs such as that from the archipelagic and island states Blue Start Hub. Finally, Dream Agritech has created an initiative called AgriWorks to employ youth and young professionals who have obtained national certificates in agricultural courses from the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority of the Philippine government. This pathway provides employment to youth while addressing the need for farm labor, supervisory, and managerial roles with clients of Dream Agritech. The Philippine Rice Research Institute has also established an infomediary campaign using ICT to help educate high school students in rice farming communities on updated rice cultivation techniques. The Phil Rice Tech Center responds to text messages by farmers about how to address diseases that they observe in the rice fields. The Pinoy Rice Knowledge Bank maintains a website that has the latest information and studies on rice cultivation. For areas where internet connectivity was unavailable, the content of the Pinoy Rice Knowledge Bank was transferred onto a compact disk or CD so that students could use the resources offline. Access to material and non-material resources is a precondition for young people's active and continued engagement in food system, land, water, forest, labor, knowledge, information, extension, finance, credit, markets, technology, and support institutions should be accessible for youth, which may require distributive and mediated market policies. While young people meet different resources barriers depending on the type of activities they engage in, for example, farming, processing, selling, consuming, etc., they have similar difficulties when it comes to accessing credit, technology, markets, and organizational and policy support, in addition to facing discrimination according to gender, race, class, generation, and caste. Existing and well-functional models of community farming, land distribution programs, farm succession mechanisms, youth-inclusive financial instruments, structured and direct market schemes, and collective youth initiatives represent adaptable strategies to promote young people's rights and access to those resources which they need to exercise their agency and food systems and beyond. Af- We have the Filipino youth from different fields of study came together to produce a mentoring program that can develop the skills that would allow there to communicate through the art for youth in agriculture. We have the African Women in Agricultural Research and Development works toward inclusive, agriculture-driven prosperity for Africa by strengthening the production and dissemination of more gender-responsive agricultural research and innovation. It invests American scientists, research institutions, and agribusinesses so that they can deliver agricultural innovations that better respond to the needs and priorities of a diversity of people across Africa's agricultural value chains. What are the ICT skills required for digital agriculture implementation? We have the Internet of Things, the digital infrastructure establishment, software, web, and mobile application development, electronic hardware repair and maintenance, drone operations, decision support systems for crop health monitoring and precision agricultural, hydroponics, including automated vertical hydroponic systems, and farm robotics. In terms of ICT and other skills needed, we have the sensor technology, the data communication, the data analysis, digital electronics, drone piloting or maintenance, farming data analysis, plant physiology, and data processing. Young people engage in learning about food systems through their roles in intergenerational and other forms of generational transfer as generators of knowledge themselves and knowledge brokers and intermediaries within social networks and institutions. Food systems in which all young people can engage with meaning and dignity require an inclusive and participatory knowledge paradigm, one that respects and legitimates diverse forms of knowledge system and recognizes young people as important actors in these systems. Young people's role in food systems, including place-based and indigenous knowledge network, should be understood in the context of increasing access to both formal and grassroots horizontal and experiential education and skills and knowledge sharing networks, including through novel digital networks and platforms. Formal education systems should equip young people with the systems thinking, critical reflection, and theoretical and practical knowledge to engage with a range of livelihood options in food systems and more broadly as actors in driving the transformation of sustainable food systems. What are the contrasting modes of digitalization in agroecological and techno-industrial agriculture? In terms of agroecological, the diversity, co-creation of sharing of knowledge, resilience, human and social values, circular and solidarity economy. In terms of techno-industrial, we have the digital tools, top-down solutions by expert, farmer vulnerability and dependence. Farmers considered replacement of human work, start-up start-up impact investment. What are the policy recommendations? Ensure the realization of the human right to food and to right work in safe and healthy working conditions for all young people and guarantee freedom from discrimination. Implement existing global policy instruments. Engage with ongoing initiatives with support policy processes that explicitly include youth as a place of action related to well-being. Support youth participation and leadership in rural, urban, and rural urban organizations, either including workers, farmers, fishers, cooperatives, and women's organizations. Incentivize union affiliation for young people and remove barriers to participation for effective social dialogue on holistic food systems interventions. Recognize the multifold and diverse voice that young people can bring to sustainable food systems transformation. Ensure youth-oriented policies take cross-cutting relationships and hierarchies, strengthen labor monitoring and statistics together with appropriate metrics for more accurate reporting on young people's employment and wage patterns, improve the documentation of different forms of youth participation, national and government, regional, civil society, and private sector mechanisms should regularly review and renew youth targeted policies for education, support youth participation in environmental monitoring and regulation, agroecology transitions, and other actions to preserve the natural resource base for coming generations, enhance standards of living, and reduce vulnerability for youth through human rights-based social protection, ensure youth have access to basic infrastructure and services, meet the specific food and nutrition needs of children and adolescents, ensure employment and labor market policies and labor demand interventions, including public employment program explicitly target young people, implement comprehensive active labor market policies to increase youth employability and enhance their employment, facilitate the transition from school to work and labor market entry in collaboration between the private and public sectors, improve labor law and regulations to establish thresholds and explicit protections for living wage and working conditions in all types of economic activities and food systems. Develop social protection programs that recognize and compensate young people's unpaid contributions to food systems through their engagement in reproductive work and in volunteer and community development activities. Strengthen labor governance to make it more youth friendly through support to labor inspection system in sectors and occupations where young people are prevalent, such as temporary apprenticeship and entry-level occupations. Recognize and create an enabling environment for youth pluri activity and food system. Support youth entrepreneurship in both individual and collective enterprises through innovative social finance and resource distribution, including the provision of mentorship, land and infrastructure sharing opportunities, and granting programs, use incentives to promote agroecological and other innovative practices in food systems technologies, practices, and organizational modalities with the explicit intent to generate new, decent jobs and enhance the quality of existing jobs for youth. Promote the development, review, and implementation of programs and policies to support the rights of rural youth to access, conserve, and protect land. Provide supportive legal measures and regulation to facilitate the intergenerational transfer of natural and productive resources and other food system related enterprises, incentivize the establishment and functioning of create cooperatives and other organizations to facilitate young farmers' access to productive assets. Promote the development and adaptability of affordable and inclusive financial services and advisory services. Create a supportive policy environment for youth-led startup initiatives. Provide support and insurance for community-based collective impact assess investment. Improve shared public infrastructure. Support the development of incubators, digital tools, and market niche, as well as certification and price premium programs. Enhance public procurement and other forms of structured and mediated markets. In terms of learning and development, promote updated training programs for professions and creations of job and food systems that require a wide range of skills, including digital, such as nutritionists, food educators, extension and advisory service providers, and agricultural coaches, while ensuring that technological innovation do not eliminate jobs on a large scale. Engage youth in research related to sustainable food systems and resource conservation and strengthen opportunities for youth to participate in community-based research partnerships through the development of methodologies that integrate diverse ways of knowing and communicating. Support educational curriculum development in reform and primary and secondary schools on needs and practices for transformation food systems, including agroecology, food literacy, food systems, and health. Reform on vocational training curricula to develop community education business partnerships based on collaborative assessments of local community needs, focusing on the entry points of most interest to youth, such as agroecological production, nutrition and dietetics, food value chains, marketing, and food systems education. Promote the intergenerational exchange of information, knowledge, and practices, including the direct exchange of experiences through mentorship, role models, and peer-to-peer engagement, and a complementary role to formal education program. Encourage youth to practice agroecology and other sustainable innovations by connecting knowledge that is locally specific. Provide opportunities for social innovations that recognize and share intergenerational and indigenous knowledge. Support the provision of youth-sensitive and youth-specific rural and urban advisory and extension services, including the through new information sharing platforms. Develop the digital skills and capacities of young workers, as well as those transitioning from school to work, in sustainable and innovative approaches for urban, peri-urban, and rural agriculture. Invest in digital infrastructure and complementary non-digital infrastructure in rural and remote areas to ensure rural connectivity, digitize the activities of public agricultural bodies, and build a digital skills of public sector workers to support change. So these are my presentation. So sorry for the slides, not that I cannot have the presentation. Pero thank you for engaging and listening in my topic. So hashtag agripreneur. Thank you very much and mabuhay.
Thank you, sir, for your nice presentation. Now we will start our quiz competition. After that, after completed our quiz competition, we will come back in our question answer session. Okay, sir? Uh, dear participant, dear participant, after some minutes later, our we will our start our quiz competition. To join this session, you have to go to slido.com. After that, you have to enter the code. The code is IGP quiz. Oh, yeah, that's right. Uh, Dear participant, you will pick your name from Slido. So with your full name, which will be directly print on certificates. Top 15 will be awarded. Top 10 will be awarded with quiz completion certificates. আচ্ছা, দুইটাকে 10 বানাইতাম। শুরু করে দিলাম। Dear person, now we will start our quiz competition. First question. After 10 years, what is the first agricultural lending engagement in Turkey? First option, Turkey climate smart and competitive growth in agri-food value. Second option, resilient landscape integration project. The correct answer is first option, Turkey climate smart and competitive growth in agri-food value. Second question. Which initiative has been launched by Twitter India to boost youth engagement in the election? First option, Power Vote. Second option, Power of 18. And the correct answer is option 2, Power of 18. Question number 3 is for nearly how many years has FFF provided service to youth in agriculture? First option 89, second option 9. The correct answer is option 2, 90. Question number 4 is median age of youth in Central Asia. First option 32.6, second option 27.6. And the correct answer is 27.6. Question number 5. When was Florida's premier civic engagement program Youth in Government founded? First option 1957, second option what is Florida YMCA Youth in Government? And the correct answer is option 2, what is Florida YMCA Youth in Government? Sixth now question. What is the current Commissioner of Agriculture in Florida? First option Nikki Fried, second option Dane Cannon. correct answer is Nikki Fry. Seven question is during what hours are you most likely to engage in risk behaviors? Option one is lunchtime, second option after school. And the correct answer is after school. Question of 8 is how many unique career opportunities are in the agriculture industry? Option 1 200 plus, option 2 250 plus, and the correct answer is option 1 200 plus. Ninth question is FFA connects you to careers in which of the following aspects of agriculture? First option technology, second option education, and the correct answer is option 1 technology. Question number 10 is how many schools have agriculture education programs in the United States? First option 700, 7,500, second option 7,700, and the correct answer is option 2 7,700. Congratulations, top 10 quiz competition winner. Today's quiz competition winners, we have all of your names which you entered during joining. We will pick and prepare certificate and will post them on our Facebook official page. Our Facebook page is Institute of Global Profession. Dear participant, after short video, we will go our question answer session. Let's enjoy our question answer session. Yeah, ito na. speaker left the platform. Dear participant, today some of our technical problem we can't share our today's webinar code. We will provide the code in a short time. Thank you everyone for your active participation. Stay blessed and happy. Thank you everyone.